Right, so Marvel's Avengers has just recently had a big update thing. Well, I say big, I'll get into that in a second, but I've ran through it already on my Twitch, and I'm going through leveling Clint at the moment for part of the Make My Marvel charity event thing. So if you want to help support that, go on over to my Twitch after this video is done. Go drop a follow, and be in the streams every day at 9 p.m. now, British time, so GMT. So translate that to whatever time zone you're in. But that's what I've been doing, and like I said, I've beaten the story bits of that, and I've been playing as Clint for a bit. I'll make a video on the full ranking guide, not really guide, but my personal rankings on each character. Once I've done a bit more leveling with Clint, probably at the end of the week. But this is weird because there's two things that I really liked in this update, and there's one big thing that I think was a huge miss. I think I'm going to start off with what I didn't really like first, because I don't want to leave everything to be sour at the end. So I'm going to talk about the stuff I didn't like, and then I'm going to talk about the stuff that I did like. So I'm going to start, so first off, the story is short. Really short. All of the Clint stuff, you can get it done in maximum 3 hours. It took me just over 2 hours to get everything done. It's taken some people an hour to get things done, and I think that's a major failing of the game as a whole. It doesn't capitalize on the best aspects of the game, which are the story. And it's players want to be invested in this world. They want, your game is called Marvel's Avengers. They want the Avengers to interact, and it feels like even within these 2 hours, there's barely any interaction between Clint and any other character besides Kate. It's the Clint and Kate show, and for everyone else, they're just tag-along buddies that don't have any implications into anything in cutscenes. It's the only other character besides Kate that ends up in a cutscene is Black Widow right at the start, and that's kind of shit. I was, one of the big things that I was really excited for was seeing how Clint would interact with every other character, how he would interact with this version of Bruce Banner, this version of Cap, this version of Tony. Cap was gone for 5 years, and Clint doesn't even mention it. Maybe there's some elevator dialogue, maybe there's some stuff there, but I would have liked that explored in the story. I would have liked Maestro to be more of a thing as well. A little bit of a spoiler alert. I guess I've been spoiling it by saying that it's both short and we don't get much character in this. It feels like there was way more interaction between Kate and the rest of the Avengers in her operation, and in this it's just Clint, Kate, and Old Man Clint, and that's fine. But it's an Avengers game. We want to see Clint interact with this version of the Avengers, and maybe get him to interact with Kamala as well. I think the only interaction he has with Kamala is, I think he tells Kamala to shut up at one point, which, that's that's a thing, I guess, but I just would have liked more of that. The story itself is fine, I guess. It's serviceable. It's your standard go to the future to save the past kind of thing, and there's implications that Hawkeye is, thinking of retiring, and basically him retiring is what dooms the world. So old man Hawkeye tells young man Hawkeye to basically don't retire. The team needs you, because they have the Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, and coming up Black Panther and Captain Marvel. So they definitely need the guy with the bow and arrow, especially when they have the girl with the bow and arrow. But yeah, that's beside the point. The story doesn't really make sense. Like, why is Clint the linchpin? Why is he the reason why everything falls apart? And how the fuck can Clint beat Maestro on his own? Yes, when you actually fight him, there's 4 people. There's Clint, there's the 3 others that you've chosen to go in. But in the cutscenes, it's just Clint, it's just young man Hawkeye and old man Hawkeye going up against Maestro. This is an evil version of Hulk with the brain of Bruce Banner, and completely insane. And these two like guys with bows, arrows, and like a sword are able to beat him. It kind of makes Maestro, who is this big threat in the comics, seem like a bit of a punk in this. He seems like a massive punk in the story, and he barely does anything. He has one cutscene at the end. You fight him, you beat him, and that's the end of the story. You get to see what's going on with Nick Fury and why he's not in the game, and then that's it. That's the end of the story, and there's no tease for Black Panther. The only way you can know what's going on next is they show the Cosmic Cube, and if you've seen the roadmap, you know that the Cosmic Cube is going to be a thing that, is going to be a thing that Monica uses when you eventually go to fight her. And then, Wakanda is happening, Black Panther is happening, but there's nothing to indicate Black Panther in this. There's no, like, at least in the Kate storyline, they showed at the end, right, this is our plan. This is what is coming next. This will directly link into what's coming next. But there's no kind of big end point that like has you on the end at the edge of your seat. There's no cliffhanger, if you know what I mean. And I feel like that kind of is a disservice, and the whole thing is a disservice to Hawkeye, who, yes, a lot of people are saying, yeah, he's just a guy, but this is someone who's like a fixture on the team, who's like a main character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he's kind of done dirty. In the story scheme of things, he's kind of done dirty. There's not really much character. There is the one mission where he goes back to his apartment and you have to save his dog, and that was my favourite mission in the entire thing of this, because you actually see Clint as a human and you see him as a grounded character, and then the rest of it is him going to the future and fighting Maestro, and that's just not Hawkeye for me. I feel like this story, they wanted to do something big with the story, but fans were clamoring for Hawkeye to be in, so they doubled down with Hawkeye, and they kind of went with a story that was too big for the characters that they were dropping. that's what it feels like for me. I like Old Man Hawkeye, I like all the stuff with the apartment complex, but it's too short, and there's not enough meat to it. That being said, the things that I like are probably the more important things for the type of game that it is. The story, this is like 2 hours in an overarching story that is, not done yet. There's more stuff to come, and if this is anything like the MCU, this story is going to run on forever. Or if it's anything like Destiny, this story is going to run on forever. And it feels like Black Panther stuff is where the big stuff is going to be. So if these operations are like 2 hours, 3 hours max, and the expansions are like basically a new game on top of the game we already have, then I'm fine with that. If we get the operations a bit quicker, like I'm alright with Operation, new piece of content that you can run whenever you want, like a raid or a Tachyon thing or a new villain sector, and then Operation, maybe bring in villain sectors with that and bring in the operations as mini updates. I think is a great idea. It's just the time between them. I think people expected a bit more, and people wanted this to be really big. But I think the failings of the actual writing of the story aren't really anything to do with the length of the story. I feel like the failing is getting it out in time. But hopefully after COVID, and when the developers have actual the right equipment to work with and can work together, I feel like hopefully then we'll get stuff coming at a good pace. But as it stands, I have to talk about this as it came out, and as it came out, it was very dry. But the things that it gets right is Hawkeye himself, like as a playable character, he's really fun. He's much more fun than I expected him to be, and that he really deserves to be. He's a badass. He is so fun, and like the animations and the stuff that he can do is so beyond what Hawkeye should be, that if that's what they did with Hawkeye in this, like giving him a fire tornado arrow, giving him an arrow that clears the screen, like giving him the wide area heal, and everything in between, and there's so much stuff that I still have yet to unlock. I haven't even touched his masteries yet, and he's already one of my favourite characters, and he's clearing things that I was struggling with Kate Bishop to clear. He's clearing things that I would struggle with Cap to clear, and and he's a character I've had for days, and I've had Cap since launch. So yeah, I really like Clint as a character. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Black Panther now, because the thing with this isn't, oh my god, they made Clint amazing, Clint's my favourite character, he's going to stay my favourite character. It's, oh my god, they made Clint amazing, imagine what they will do with a character that is like visually interesting, like a Doctor Strange, a Scarlet Witch, a Vision, even Black Panther, Captain Marvel, and characters like that. If they can make a street level character as batshit insane as they made Hawkeye, then then what will they do when they get to the actually batshit insane characters? And that's the cool thing to kind of, that's the cool thing to think about. And he just plays well. And he's gonna be our new character and our new toy for a long time. So they might as well have made him amazing anyway. So yeah, that's a win. Hawkeye as a playable character is a win in my book. You know what else is a win? Maestro. Weirdly, I've seen mixed opinions on Maestro, but as I stand on him, it's a really fun fight. I really like the fight. It's kind of similar to Abomination, but it has enough new stuff in it, and it's enough of a kind of, you do have to think. And yes, I'm saying this having only fought him once with Clint in the story, and during that fight, yes, you can count on Clint is a squishy character. You don't know Clint yet as a character. Maybe when you're good with Clint, or when you go and fight him with a character that you are good at, like a Hulk, a Kamala, a Cap. When you go in with a character that you know, and when you go in knowing the fight yourself, I feel like it's going to be a lot easier. But comparing Maestro to the Super Adaptoid is like day and night. The Super Adaptoid was a terrible fight. It was terrible. But Maestro is leagues ahead of anything else in this game. Apart from maybe MODOK, but we can't fight MODOK multiple times. So I guess all we have is like, he's basically Abomination, but with twice the moveset. He's a little bit bigger as well. Apologies about that. The video cut off for some reason. But yeah, the Maestro fight itself is just Abomination where you need to think. And I want more fights like this going forward. So hopefully the Monica fight, the Claw fight, whatever fights they're also bringing into the War for Wakanda, hopefully those are along the same vein as this going forward. And I had a lot of fun with it. I had a lot of fun with the fight itself. And I'm glad that it's a villain sector. And apparently you can get a Hank Pym summon from the villain sector, which I haven't got yet, which I'm gonna try and get if I can run the villain sector tonight. But yeah, overall, this update is kind of an L and kind of a win. It's kind of a loss and kind of a win. I like the new character and I like the new villain. I don't like the story, and that's a shame, because I've probably been the most vocal about how good the story in this game is and how much I enjoy the story aspects of this game. And that's kind of been the one thing that's always had people going back, is it's a great game. Or the end game is serviceable. Not really. The end game is kind of very repetitive, but the story and any new story beats that we get dropped in like either individual missions or you know, these operations, they've always you've always been able to rely on them to tell a good story. But it feels like with this one, they just it feels rushed, or it feels like it's incomplete in some way. So either there's another half of this update that, you know, we haven't got yet, or they just didn't know what to do. And I'm gonna take it as they didn't know what to do, and they didn't really, and they kind of wrote themselves into a corner with the whole time travel thing. And they were just like, right, we want Clint, we like Clint, and we know that the people playing the game like Clint and want Clint, so we're going all in with Clint, and we're just going to forget that this is an Avengers game, and it's going to be a Hawkeye game for 2 hours. Which, you know, it's okay. I would have preferred an extra hour on top with, you know, more interactions with the other team members, and maybe run a mission with each of the characters, and, you know, get to know the team and get to know Clint as a character, and not just as, you know, this you know, nigh on god that the game wants you to think he is, which just isn't believable. It's just not believable that, you know, the linchpin holding the Avengers together is Clint Barton, Hawkeye. You know, screw your Captain Marvel, screw your Thors, screw your Hulks. We need the bow and arrow man. And that just kind of weirds me out a bit, you know. But anyways, that's my thoughts. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about the roadmap, which will be a highly positive video because I'm really excited by a lot of this stuff in the roadmap, and it's more content, which is something I've been crying out for. So yeah, I am excited for that video, and I'm also excited to go through my character ranking because I love doing those kind of videos. They might not be the most popular, but they're the most, you know, fun for me to film. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.